Hey everybody, welcome to the Creative Conversations podcast of David and Donna. I'm David.
I'm Donna.
We've done that intro 23 times now. This being the 23rd. That's a lot of numbers.
Well, actually, we had those other ones too. So we had the extra Star Wars one and the Star Trek one, and we had the 2 additional
hours. So this is like 26.
Wow.
So there's 3 others. That's cool.
Yes.
Very cool. Here we are. And we just did positive conversations of David and Donna, which by the time this is up, positive conversations will be up. That'll be a lot quicker to get up there because it's only 20 minutes long. It's a little 20-minute long positive conversation all about stress relief and how to overall just feel better.
Yeah, how to view the world in a positive light. So many people are so negative and so stressed all the time. It's just our little way of shining some light on that problem.
So we're going to have positive conversations for about 20 minutes every single week, right before we record our creative conversations. I would assume might change up a little bit, but that's what we're going to shoot for right now. And hopefully in the future, we have some more like 20 to 30 minute little tidbits coming out, odds and ends, you could say, about what we want to talk about.
Yeah, my 18-year-old son looked at my list of podcasts today and said, "Those look really long. Why don't you do a few shorter ones?" And so today we just jumped in and said, "Let's do a few shorter ones."
We talked about a lot of different things, and in our heads, every single day, we get our heads on a little bit straighter, pointing in the right direction, and today our head pointed in the direction of we need to finally do that. I just popped my knuckle really close to the mic, so they probably heard that. And if you like that sort of thing, you're welcome. And if you hate it, I'm sorry. I'm still doing it because I can't stop. I gotta get them all now.
Gotta do them all now. Okay. Well, I'm not contributing to that particular
You don't
noise.
like popping? Are you able to?
I don't try. It doesn't bother me when other people do it because, of course, now they've come out with the research that it actually is good for your fingers.
It is good. I've heard it's bad.
But I've heard it's good.
I had a really bad problem where I would just tilt my head and it would accidentally do it. It doesn't really happen anymore. I can sometimes do it, but like it was pretty often. And I was at the doctor's office one time for something completely unrelated to my neck, and I just like tilted my head and just like just huge crack. And the doctor looks at me like in disgust and is like, and he looks at my mom and goes, "Why'd he do that?" She's like, "He just cracked his neck." And he looks at me and goes, "Don't do that." And I was like, okay, that's so weird, man. You can talk to me, like...
But he never gave you a reason.
No, he never did. It's just weird that he looked at my mom like, why'd he do that? Like, I'm not a freaking dog.
How old were you?
Probably like 12.
Okay, but you're saying that was a problem. So now when you just move
according to my doctor.
No, but I mean, now when you move your neck around, it doesn't pop? Or
no,
you just don't try?
I mean, like, if I tried really hard, it probably could. But the problem was, it would just do it without me trying. And one time, like, I woke up one day, on the day of a final at school, actually. No, it was a day, it was a midterm in high school, and I just couldn't move my neck. It was completely still on the day of a midterm, and I was, like, facing, like, towards the left. So I was, like, my head was tilted slightly towards the left, and I couldn't move it, and I usually drive to school, did not drive to school this day, and I got to school, and I did my finals, like,
to the left.
In the most awkward way that I've ever done.
Finals and to the left.
Went to my mom works at a physical therapy office, thankfully. And so I went there and they did some cool cracks. And I was good to go. That was the coolest moment of my life when my neck popped that way.
Well, I'm confused. You were having an issue where you kind of randomly moved your neck and it popped. And then the doctor told you not to do that and it just stopped?
No. It kept going.
Oh.
I'm just saying he told me to stop.
Okay, I was trying to figure that out.
And it's funny because it's like... That's so, like... Because you brought up that actually turns out it's good for you, but my doctor apparently did not think so. I mean, I kept going. Like, I couldn't just stop.
Stop going to the doctor.
And I was fine until my neck froze up one day.
Yeah, people get cricks in their necks all the
Yeah,
time.
it happens.
It
Probably completely unrelated.
I'm saying.
Probably. And it was this funny story. My girlfriend at the time, I had to hug her very, very awkwardly when we left for class. And I went into my class for the final, and my friend... we'll call her Sarah. She was like, I bet it's funny when you hugged, blah blah blah, and you had to do it all awkwardly. And I was like, oh, you saw that? She goes, no, I just assumed. So that was funny to me.
Oh, okay. So
that,
she just figured out because your neck was
frozen.
she
just assumed it, and then I accidentally revealed that it actually happened, and embarrassed myself even more.
That's terrible.
It is.
Well, on a completely unrelated note, I guess it's related in the fact that it's about hugging. So I listen to a lot of things from Jack Canfield.
Wait, sorry. I can pop my ankle too.
Okay, let's hear it.
Continue. Oh, you want to hear it?
Yeah. No.
Ooh.
Okay, I heard that.
Cool.
I don't know if y'all heard that, but I heard it.
Continue.
Yes, please. So Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul author, he has just lots of motivational things out. One of the things that he had recently was a video I watched, and at the end of it, he talked about hugs and types of hugs. And, you know, I can just completely digress now and come back to what I was saying, but when I was in college, I took a class, and at the end of one of the lectures, they also talked about how to hug, and I was always sitting in the front row, and so my professor called me up, and we did the A-frame hug, where you stand kind of away from each other and just lean in with just your, like, kind of your heads barely touching, you know, because you're leaning in, and just all these different types of hugs. And then there was just the full, like, grab and, you know, pull close kind of hug. So those were her distinctions. There were 3 or 4 different ones. But Jack Canfield talked about all these different kinds, and then made the specific distinction that if you put your heads to the right so that your left ears are touching, it lines up your heart more with the other person's heart. And so I've been telling different people that I know that, because I hug people all the time. I love to hug people. And so it's this awkward thing, because it's all everybody's habit to make your head go, I guess it's more to the left so your right ears touch. And people are going in for the hug, and I'm trying to go to their right so that our left ears touch, and they're going the other way. You know, that awkward thing where which way are we hugging? But I've told enough people that I hug often that we are now going that direction, including David. So that's our the way we hug each other when we say goodbye. But it's just interesting, the things about hugs that just came out of that one conversation about you having a weird habit of popping your knuckles that led to popping your neck. Yeah.
I'm going to be honest.
Creative conversation.
Okay,
but you're
up until just now, and he reminded me that I talked about hugs with my crick in the neck. I was actually like, why are you talking about hugs? Like, I mean, it's okay if you do. You can do that. Please, feel free. But I was like, this is something that came up weeks ago, so why are you bringing it up now? That's something, you get what I'm saying here? I was like, really like, okay, well, you go. But no, it's all related. It's all tied in.
I tied it in before I even started saying
yes, it just didn't click. It just didn't click. I was focused on my ankle popping.
Yes, you were, because you even interrupted me when I was, that's why. Yeah. See, when I was saying the part about, well, speaking of hugs, you were like, wait, stop, I can pop my ankle.
You're right.
And so he totally missed the segue there.
I apologize.
It's fine, you
and
got
you know
it now,
what?
right?
But the thing is, you know what's more important than making sure you have a hug that really connects you to the person? Popping your ankle.
Oh, I see.
So
have you had any issues in your life from popping your ankle?
No.
Good. That's
so far so good.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about Star Wars.
Let's do it.
Completely separate.
No, it's fine. I'm sure somebody hugged somebody in Star Wars. Actually, I did see a picture. I saw a picture of Luke and Leia when they were in the first movie, and he's hugging her, and they're looking at the camera. It might have been their second movie. But anyway, and it's just this really sweet little thing. And then there's the picture of how they look now in this movie, hugging, and, you know, just obviously much older, but the sentiment seemed so much more real in the second picture. Like they were just really like caring about it. It
must have been just during filming, because they're not. Luke's not. It must have been during The Last Jedi.
Okay, well, whatever.
Well, I was just saying, because have you seen The Last Jedi? Because Luke died in that, so it must have been during The Last Jedi that happened. So you're going to see Rise of Skywalker. I got all ummed for a second, but you're going to see Rise of Skywalker.
I am. I have not.
I already saw Rise of Skywalker.
Right.
I'm going to give a spoiler-free review for the sake of Donna, and usually I would do like, okay, let's go into spoilers, so don't listen, but Donna has not. So
I really honestly don't care about spoilers at all. Somebody can tell me what happens scene for scene in a movie, and I'll still go see it, because I see it for different reasons than really? For the story to unfold.
I try to too, but with big stuff like this, I try to avoid spoilers.
That's fine. But I mean, if a few slip out, if like you have to say something to, so in case you're listening and you don't want to know anything about this, wait till later to listen to it. But I'm good. I'm fine.
I'll say 100% spoiler free. I actually liked it. I liked it, so definitely go see the movie. I mean, support it. You know, it's Star Wars. Go see the movie.
Well, let me ask you this, because apparently a lot of people think this. Has it been too Disney-fied?
I wouldn't say so. There's some... I mean, like, I don't even, what does that mean? That
Exactly.
it's happy-go-lucky?
I don't know, but I've heard that complaint just from the few people I've read or listened to.
You know, Marvel, I mean, Disney owns Marvel now, and a big purple guy snapped half of the universe out of existence and then threw Black Widow off of a ledge and splattered her on the ground and then killed Tony Stark. So what does Disney-fied mean? But
No,
you're right, I have heard that too.
And there was another comment. Let me see if I can pull it out of my brain from what we just said.
Maybe too franchised?
No. It was a thought. How would the movie have been different, in your opinion, if George Lucas had done the movie? I mean, do you think there were obvious things or not?
I think definitely. The prequels, which are... I mean, George Lucas, of course, invented all of it, but George Lucas actually didn't direct Empire or Return of the Jedi. Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi. He had a lot less control over those because he had people around him. He wasn't George Lucas, so he couldn't just do whatever he wanted. And when it came to the prequels, that was 100% like George was king of the world, and he could do whatever he wanted with the prequels. So if you want to see the most George Lucas Star Wars, it is the prequels. And those are very different movies from these. Those are all about the politics and really weird dialogue. And
lots of people hate them.
Lots of people hate the prequels. I don't hate the prequels as much as everybody else does. I don't think they're very good movies. But I'm able to have an appreciation for them and just calm down a little bit and just enjoy the Star Wars. And that's sort of my point about this movie when I see a lot of people don't like this movie. A lot of people do. Definitely more people like it than people who liked Last Jedi, I think. But the reason that I kind of like it the most is just like, because it's Star Wars. I just went into it relaxed. I was in a good mood, and I just wanted to watch some Star Wars, and nothing outrageous happened. Nothing disgusting, you know. It's not like, oh, by the way, Luke Skywalker's the biggest villain in the world and slaughter children. Like, nothing like outrageous happened in this movie. No character assassinations. You know, my problem with The Last Jedi was that Luke Skywalker acted nothing like Luke Skywalker. Mm-hmm. The Luke Skywalker I knew would not hide away on an island for 30 years like a baby, you know. That's my problem with The Last Jedi. Nothing like that in this movie. No character assassinations. Very tight, very entertaining to watch. And when nothing outrageous happens, I can just enjoy it. And I like the movie. Very narratively satisfying, okay. I think.
So it brought everything to a nice conclusion.
I think it did bring everything to a nice conclusion, except for the stuff that was set up in The Last Jedi. Because what happened there is J.J. Abrams directed The Force Awakens, Episode 7. The first movie in this trilogy. And then he was like, all right, y'all good? Cool, I'm going to go over here. Y'all just enjoy. Okay, I set everything up for you, so just have fun. And then director Rian Johnson came along and very obviously threw all of that away, and Rian Johnson did his own thing. And so then J.J. Abrams came back for this movie and was very obviously like, uh-oh. And threw away everything Rian Johnson did and brought it back. So okay. There's a lot of stuff that's really confusing and very obviously them saying that they're ignoring The Last Jedi. Like, things that are so ridiculously obvious that it's petty almost, where it's like, oh, JJ didn't like The Last Jedi? Didn't realize. Because it's like so petty, some of the stuff. But I can't complain because I didn't really like The Last Jedi either. But other than the stuff like that was kind of set up but then never fully capitalized on, I think because of the Last Jedi incident. I'm going to call it the incident. Geez, that's a little harsh. But other than that, I think it was very narratively satisfying. It's a nice end for the Skywalker saga, I think. Because I'm just ready for it to be done. That's another thing. That's why I kind of enjoy it. Because I don't have to be stressed out about, are they going to make another one and screw everything up? No, they're done. They've made it. It's over. I ain't got to worry about it anymore.
So that's done, but there's still the whole universe and
right.
all the, like, I mean, how many more independent, like, there's been the Han Solo movie, there's been
Rogue One,
yeah.
Right. I don't know if they have any other movies announced. I know that they made The Mandalorian for Disney Plus, and that they have announced an Obi-Wan Kenobi show starring Ewan McGregor, which is amazing.
That's going to be on
Disney Plus, okay. Yes, which I can't wait for.
A series?
It's going to be a series, like a TV series. Yeah, I believe so. I think that's what it's going to be. And they're making some more cartoons set in the universe that are coming out.
Wasn't Clone Wars? That was a cartoon?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah.
So what other...
there was Star Wars Resistance, I think it was what it was called. No. Was it called Resistance? I don't know. I didn't watch this one, so I don't remember. But it's takes place after episode 3. I think it's no. There, I think there's going to be a cartoon show called Star Wars Resistance that is a new one.
Oh, okay.
And then there is the show that I'm thinking of is called, I don't know. Maybe that is Resistance. I don't. They're a Jedi cartoon. I didn't watch that. I'm sorry. I watched the Clone Wars. Love the Clone Wars. I did not watch this one. Maybe it's called Resistance. Sorry, I'll look it up after and correct myself. I just didn't watch that one.
Oh, excuse me.
Oh, I know it too because I've talked about it before many times on another Star Wars podcast I've done. So, but anyway, so they are making more, but they're not making anything else in this Skywalker like saga about Darth Vader, the Emperor, Luke, like all that stuff is done.
Well, my understanding from the very beginning was that George Lucas, had in mind 3 trilogies, and this is the end of that. That boom.
Yes,
we finally got to the end of that, and
yeah.
Okay.
That's my belief. I think that's pretty much what's happened here too. Is that it's like, okay, that's done. Star Wars is done, and I'm happy. I want more movies in the universe because it's a huge universe, and before Disney bought it, there were thousands and thousands. That's maybe an exaggeration. There were tons of novels and. Okay, so thankfully Donna just pulled it up for me on all the Star Wars cartoons, all the series. So let's see, we got Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and then there's
something that says Resistance.
Yeah, Star Wars Resistance, which I believe. Let me look up Star Wars Resistance and see if that is the one that I'm thinking of. Resistance.
So I also saw when I was searching what.
So Star Wars Resistance is going to be the new one.
Okay.
Well, it is the new-ish one that actually takes place in like stars, like BB-8. It takes place within the new trilogy.
Okay.
So there's Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Then there's, I still didn't see the one that I'm thinking of. That there's the Clone Wars, and then there is. I gotta see this. I might cut this out if it takes a second, but I have to figure it out now. I have to know.
Well, I'll talk if you can stop talking for a second.
Yeah. Sorry.
When I first pulled it up and I typed in Star Wars, one of the images that first popped up was someone wearing like an ugly Christmas sweater with Baby Yoda. Mm-hmm. And I had just recently heard on the radio, how did they keep Baby Yoda a secret for so long? Like, I'm sure that well before The Mandalorian came out, they had to take all kind of measures to make sure that nobody saw that there was a Baby Yoda until it was revealed in the show. And it has been a tremendous talking point. I mean, people who know nothing about Star Wars are seeing Baby Yoda memes all over every social media. It's just amazing that they were able to pull that off. Do you know anything about how they kept it a secret?
I have absolutely zero idea.
It's really amazing.
It is mind-blowing. I mean, like, we talked about this before, and I just kind of assumed they hadn't made anything yet. But obviously they had to get it all out this quickly, or maybe they just were that quick with it.
But it's just the idea that even before the series came out, I mean, it's such a lovable, identifiable character that nobody knew it was a thing until it was actually revealed on the show. Mm-hmm. So that was some Disney magic right there.
Everything's Disney magic. Speaking of The Mandalorian, we still have not figured out what the frick is going on with that Baby Yoda, and I love you, Mandalorian. I'm getting a little fed up. Hurry up and just tell us what's going on. But anyway, I found the series. It is called Star Wars Rebels.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was thinking of. That's why I had Resistance. So Resistance is the newer one that takes place in the new trilogy. Then you have Star Wars: The Clone Wars, which takes place in the prequels, and Star Wars Rebels takes place right after the prequels. And that show is very popular, and they got one more season of that coming up. And then they're going to one more season of the Clone Wars that is actually going to be finished. Yeah, I saw that too, the Baby Yoda sweater. Maybe a lot of that might just be made by like other companies too.
That's possible.
Can do it really quickly. Just get that crap out.
But, I mean, I am just shocked that it's not a huge push for Christmas. That just blows my mind.
You're right. That Disney didn't even do that. You're right, because that's the thing. Like, in a cynical world, you would expect Disney to just reveal it. Because I guarantee you, Jon Favreau did not want it revealed. But in a cynical world, I'm sure it was talked about being like, should we just reveal it so that way we can make millions off of it? But
they still will.
They still
It's
will,
just
yeah.
The Christmas rush,
push,
you know?
yeah.
That's some crazy business right there.
Yeah. You know, Disney has so much money. I think about this. With Spider-Man, they weren't going to make another Spider-Man movie unless this Spider-Man movie made $1 billion. $1 billion. $1 billion.
Did it?
There isn't. Yes,
Okay.
It did. But it's so funny because it's like, can you imagine the board meeting where it's like, well, we're not going to make another one because it only made triple its budget, so that's not enough for us. It's like, how much money do you need?
I hear you.
There isn't enough money in the world for you to make $1 billion every time you make a movie.
Well,
And that's what they're going for with Rise of Skywalker. And Rise of Skywalker's bombing in China. Fun fact.
how do you know
I read that.
that? Okay.
That the Rise of Skywalker is bombing in China.
Is there
currently.
some reason that you are aware of? Or
I have a theory. It is because this is just a theory. Star Wars was not released in China when it was first made, like the first Star Wars movies.
Oh,
So there
people don't
isn't
have
as
the
much.
history.
Yeah, there's not as much nostalgia for it, maybe.
Okay.
And by bombing, I don't know if it's actually bombing or if it's just bombing based on
Disney standards.
Disney
yeah.
standards, yeah, where it's like, oh man, it's only making 2 times its budget. It's not enough for us.
Darn.
How much money do you need, man? It's so much. What are they doing with all that?
They do have some amazing stuff in those parks. They
You're right.
really do.
And they just bought Fox and they got Disney Plus going. They're doing a lot with it, and it's actually now you pointed out, you're right. They're doing a lot of crap. They got a lot of Marvel movies being made, and they have so much money that they can make a movie about Shang-Chi. Like, yeah, exactly. She just looked at me like, who? Shang-Chi's this very obscure comic book character, and they would have never in a million years make a movie about him. But now they have so much money that they can take the risk like that.
So please educate me.
On Shang-Chi? Shang-Chi is the master of Kung Fu. He's a Marvel comic books character. Basically, he's Bruce Lee. He was invented...
I was about to say, is he based on Bruce Lee?
Yes.
Those words
He was
almost came
invented
out of my mouth.
Yes, connection.
See, yes.
He was invented around the time that Bruce Lee was like a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like at his peak, sort of capitalizing off of that sort of thing. And master of Kung Fu, not very popular. And all he just is Bruce Lee basically, and has Kung Fu, but he's really good at it, so he's a superhero.
Wow.
And they're making a movie. You know what? It's probably gonna be pretty good. I'm gonna go see it.
Who is going to play the character?
I don't remember his name. He's a relatively unknown Asian actor. I mean, he has a fan base, but he's not a super prominent one.
But is he really good at Kung Fu?
I think so.
I
I think
hope
I think so. I think they actually did get somebody who was like good, but I have no idea. I cannot be sure about that.
I actually just saw on my Facebook feed today somebody just threw up some random clip of Bruce Lee fighting some random person. It was supposed to be like film that was not widely available, but how did he die? I was thinking that while I was watching.
I don't remember.
We gotta look that up.
I don't know.
Talk about something. I'll look that
I know
up.
about I know about how his son died. Brandon Lee. Do you know about Brandon Lee?
I think it was a very similar situation. So tell me what happened to Brandon, because I think that they made a lot of comparisons at that time.
Right. So what happened to Brandon Lee was he played. I think his name's Brandon.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was in a movie. He was a very young actor, had not acted a whole lot, but he was in a movie called The Crow, which is actually a comic book movie, and it's a very dark movie, and he was really great in it, very promising. It's very tragic because he was a very promising young actor, and what happened is there was a scene, and thankfully they were shooting it towards the end of filming, and it was a scene where somebody was firing a blank pistol shot at Brandon. And Brandon was going to fall over, and it was a shot like he was getting shot, and it was a blank in the revolver. I believe it was a revolver. But what ended up happening was it was a blank bullet, but there was a piece of shrapnel in the barrel of the gun. So even though they fired the blank, the shrapnel launched and hit Brandon and killed him on set while recording. So I think the scene where that happens in the movie, they actually reshot it with a stunt double to not have the scene of Brandon Lee dying in the movie, thankfully. But which is like, yes, of course. And then they ended up finishing the movie with his stunt doubles, and they didn't have a whole lot left to shoot. And it came out after he passed away. That's what happened to Brandon Lee. I'm really not sure what happened to Bruce Lee. Have you been able to find anything?
I'm reading it now. So find something else to talk about while I'm looking over this.
All right, sure.
Or actually, I could read some of this. So I'll just read this. So it says,
What's
the
that
trouble
from?
started, it's an article called The Mysterious Circumstances Surrounding Bruce Lee's Death.
Is it a Wikipedia thing? Or?
No, I don't know exactly the source, but he had collapsed on May 10th during an automated dialogue replacement session for his movie Enter the Dragon. He was rushed to the hospital where he complained of seizures and severe headache, and they recognized the cerebral edema, a condition in which excess fluid in the brain causes swelling. They were able to treat him. After a brief hospital stay, he felt better. It says this wasn't, he told his friends how Bruce Lee would die. So this is kind of the build-up. He resumed his usual fitness regime after that. He seemed to be recovering extremely well. He complaining of the occasional headache. And then on the day he died, he was very busy. Let's see, acting out a scene with energy. Let's see. Bruce went on to the apartment of a friend. Let's see. They were alone for several hours and made dinner plans. Around 7:30 in the evening, Lee complained of a headache. Let's see. So he got a painkiller and went to lie down. And then a few hours later, he was unresponsive and basically died. So I don't know if he actually died from I just don't know. Now they're going on about other things. So if you tell me about kind of your thoughts on that. I just remember it was when Brandon Lee died, they were just talking about how horrible, Bruce Lee died under weird, strange circumstances. And I mean, whose job was it to make sure that gun that had a blank in it?
I guess the prop master.
I'm sorry, that's horrible.
It is horrible, and it was a tragic accident. I'm not sure if the man who pulled the trigger or whoever was responsible for it was charged of manslaughter. I would assume no, but I don't know for sure.
That's just a shame.
Anything that happened, it is very sad. Very sad to watch that movie now.
Now, this is saying that Bruce Lee's death was an allergic reaction to the painkiller. So he was having the same issue in his head, headaches, but when he took the painkiller, it apparently was something he was allergic to.
Well, this is a sad conversation here on Creative Conversations.
But I was wondering that the other day, and it's interesting that his name came up.
Yes.
That's awful. I mean, that was such a loss. I mean, that man, I don't know a whole lot about Kung Fu, but I have watched a lot of different videos about him and how he was so ultra focused, even when he was injured. Like, he was lying on his back. I think he had a back injury, and he was like in traction. And he was like telling somebody like to write down his thoughts about how he, when he punched something, he always saw his hand like going through what he was punching, like to get the power behind it. He was just so ultra focused and so talented. It really is such a shame.
Did you see the movie recently, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
No, I have not seen that movie.
Quentin Tarantino movie.
I know what it is, but I haven't seen it.
I saw it. I'm a big fan of it. There's a scene in it with there's a scene in about Bruce Lee, and it's a lot of fun. So I think you should definitely see it. I bet you would enjoy it. But he does get his butt kicked by Brad Pitt, though. But then it turns out it's Brad Pitt fantasizing. So, like, did it happen? Did it not happen? I don't really know what happened. Fight Club. Yeah, it's Brad Pitt, Fight Club. That just made me think about Bruce Lee. And, I mean, they talking about Bruce Lee made me think about that. Anyway, Marvel making a Shang-Chi movie.
Yes.
And they're making, like, a bunch of weird movies. They're making another Doctor Strange movie. Have you heard, or did I tell you?
No, you.
So, sorry, Benedict Cumberbatch. It's called Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Maybe you did tell me that. I'm remembering multiverse now that you're saying it. Yes.
Which I love that title, because that implies, like, what the frick? No Marvel movie was entitled to something strange like that, There was, like, Captain America, Winter Soldier. Okay, it's about the Winter Soldier. The Multiverse of Madness? Ooh, I love that. It's
and
then
multiverse
bizarre.
Could mean that any of the characters who have died can come back for any
Perhaps.
reason. I mean,
or they could just go into... That's true. They could go into, like, a weird alternate dimensions. I want to see, like, there's that scene in the first Doctor Strange when he goes through all the dimensions, and there's a dimension of, like, fingers that keep growing hands that have fingers that grow hands, and it's like, what the heck is happening? Scarlet Witch is going to be in that movie, too. Scarlet Witch. You remember her from Infinity War? She was the one. You know, Vision, the robot.
Yes.
She was the one who was dating the robot.
Okay.
But android. Sorry. So he's like, so it's totally cool. So it's not weird at all because he's an android. So not a big deal that he's.
It's a comic book world. None of it, whatever, would have to be a big deal at all. I mean,
you're right, but at the same time, there is a certain level of like, I hate. Actually, I'm not saying I hate what you just said because you're right, but have you ever come across this thing where it's like something happens in a movie like Star Wars, and it's just illogical, and you point it out, and someone's response is, yeah, well, this is a movie about guys who use swords made of light, so who cares if this illogical thing happened? It's like, yeah, but you're missing the point. A movie can have fantasy things, but still establish logic and stick to the logic, and whenever it doesn't follow that logic, it's a plot hole, and even if I hate when you complain about plot holes and people say, yeah, well, the fact that there's an alien is a plot hole. No, it's not. It's a universe that has been established to work this way. Mm-hmm. And whenever that doesn't mean that there's no logic involved. Logic should still be there in the movie.
Yeah, you still want good storytelling.
Yeah.
Regardless.
But at the same time, though, I do allow a certain suspension of belief because lots of space explosions happen in Star Wars, and it's impossible for explosions to happen in space because there's no oxygen. But it looks cool, so I want to watch it.
Very cool.
I'm not going to complain.
Nope, not at all.
So you have been working very hard, but keep talking about your play that's coming up. But
I swear you read my mind, David. I swear you read my mind, because I was thinking, well, speaking of storytelling.
Yes, but I ask you, how's it coming? Are you almost done?
I am almost done. So we had, just backstory for anybody who doesn't already know, started the outline at the end of last school year, and one of my students wrote some scenes or wrote some dialogue for every scene when we had a very cursory outline, and we've since gone back and kind of reworked the outline, because what we're doing is updating Romeo and Juliet, which is fun, especially for me, having taught this play as many times as I have and knowing the West Side Story version, which I even kind of got to work in a little bit with one of the lines of dialogue. But since we're going to stage it as a high school play, and I don't really want to show death on stage, we had to change the ending completely. So we're trying to keep the aspects of they're together and they're extremely happy, but then they have to be separated, and they keep finding all these ways to try to get to each other, because that is what happens in the actual play. There's just plan after plan after plan after plan, and everything that could go wrong does go wrong. And so we had to kind of rethink that. And now that I'm actually writing the very last scene now. So what we had originally decided would be in the last scene has kind of changed because of all of the changing of the different types of plans that we actually ended up writing. And it's just the last scene of any play is so complicated, because every single thing that has happened so far has to tie together. And again, the good closure, you have to make sure that everything is tied up, finished. The audience is glad, that they had a nice ending. So that's going to take me a minute, but I'm very happy. I'm on my Christmas break right now. I worked on the play some yesterday and some today. So if I can just finish writing it, maybe today, but definitely tomorrow, and just read through it, make some final changes, then I can start some other work, which is all the planning of the I can't get my words out. Props and see, I'm losing it, David. Props and costumes. That's what I need. That's what I need to work on. Props and costumes.
You have a stack of cool hats over there for that.
Well, actually, the hats are for the variety show, which is another thing I'm working on. So
right.
Yes.
Well, tell us about the variety show.
So the variety show we did for the first time last year, and what I did is I just told my students, think about something you would like to do on stage. Just what are you good at? What is something that you don't normally get to showcase when you're in a full-length production?
Yeah.
It can be a song, it can be a lip sync, it can be a monologue, it can be a skit,
a scene.
Yeah, a scene. Anything. It can be a commercial.
A lot of fun.
So we just threw it all together and found a framework. And the framework for that particular show was the first half. We had a boy and a girl pretending to be brother and sister fighting over a TV remote, and they would say, well, let's watch Disney now, and then we would have a scene that would be in Disney, and then well, I don't want to watch that. I want to watch whatever
I
else.
want to watch Vines.
Yes, well, actually, the Vines didn't fit in the TV series, so we moved that to the second half, which was all somebody three girls talking about what was on their phones and showing each other things on their phone, which was actually acted out on stage. So we did have Vines, and we had the commercials there, because it was hard to figure out why somebody holding a remote would change the TV channel to a commercial. Mm-hmm. And when you're watching stuff on your phone, whether you like it or not, the commercials are there. And so anytime we had somebody who was singing a song that somebody holding a phone would show her friend, like, oh, I gotta watch this stupid commercial first. And
I just had a great idea. If y'all, I don't know what y'all framework is gonna be, but if anything like that comes up again, where it's like, oh, we're watching a commercial, oh, an ad, an idea, you can have, some ads have skip buttons. So have an ad walk out, and it's like a skit, right? And it's the most boring thing in the world, and somebody says skip.
And they just have to run off stage.
And they have to run off stage. That'd be funny. Get that
big hook thing like they used to use in the old variety shows. And
that'd be so funny.
Pull them off with the hook.
That's just an idea. Like, if you or a loved one has been diagnosed with skip. Too bad I didn't think of it last year.
Well, here is the possible framework that we're working on. So I don't know if that'll work this year, but it's a great idea. Or it could just be a gag in itself. But in our last play, which we've talked about a lot on here, we have two girls named Cora and Candace who were the theater girls in the play. And everything they did was just ridiculously over dramatic. And when I tell you they stole the show, when we had our final scene, there were two different pairs of girls who did this, but they acted out their musical version of It, the musical. And I mean, just so funny. Like, I could hardly breathe after both. Like, I laughed so hard. The whole audience just roared with laughter. So they were excited through the whole play because they were sponsoring this costume dance where they were bringing in alumnus from the drama program who is now a famous director and looking for ideas for his next horror movie. So we thought we would take the Cora and Candace characters and show their future where they have their own production company and they're doing auditions for their own show.
And are they pitching to Alfred Browning, perhaps?
They actually are going to get a visit from Alfred Browning.
Good.
Because now they're more like equals.
And Michael...
that is the idea. Actually, I think it's going to be Lane. Michael Casito and Lane Graves both played the part of Alfred Browning. But Michael Casito is already in the show in so many different acts. Well, actually, so is Lane. But it's really more Lane's idea. And Lane has been helping me organize everything. And we're trying to figure out how to get all of the acts in the right order so that two of the girls who played Cora and Candace and then one of the actors who played Alfred Browning can still do those parts and be in all the other things they're in the show. So a variety show is easier than a play in the writing aspect of it, but the organization of it and trying to figure out what goes in what order and who is in this play and this skit and has time to change to get on stage for the next thing. And for whatever reason this year, I have a ton of boys who are going to be dressing as girls. So that story happens that last year they, I don't know who pitched it, but somebody had the idea of acting out the Jimmy Fallon skit L that he does all the time, where he dresses like a girl and no matter who's on the show with him, it could be John Cena. He gets on stage, dresses as a girl, and they just...
Ew, everything is just ew, and they talk like this, and they talk about how they spell their names, and I-E because Y's are ew.
And, I mean, the boys that did it last year just had a ball. And I have quite a few of those same boys who want to do it again, and now I have even more boys. Interestingly enough, our guest from 2 podcasts ago, who's not even in my theater class, is going to be in it as well. Of course, I did beg him into I kind of told him he had to. No, Alex talked about singing, and I've really tried to encourage him without pushing, but he's decided that's not a thing, even though he said it on the podcast, but that's okay. But now instead he's going to dress up like a girl and do some kind of a lip sync with some of the other boys dressed as girls. It ought to be just a kick. I actually had a ball. I went shopping at Goodwill and hit the nightgowns, and I have a whole bag sitting right in front of me of just nightgowns and robes and all these little things for the boys to wear because they're doing a sleepover. That's why they're having like a karaoke, battle or whatever, and different boys will get up and sing and act out songs they can dance to. It's just going to be so much fun. It really is.
I'm very excited for the variety show. More excited than anything in my life.
Aw.
That's it. I just wake up in the morning
Think about the
and
variety
think
show.
about, can't wait for the variety
And
show.
smile. Smile,
And
the big smile.
No, but seriously, I'm very excited for it because it was a lot of fun last year. I like the idea because you have all these people. I mean, in theater, we always did funny, random, crazy things, and without really like, it'd be great to show that on stage to people, and that's what you get to do with the variety show. It's just like, it's like when we're in class and we had different skits we want to show. And
Read my mind again.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
at the beginning of every school year, to get to know each other, we do sit in the chair for a minute and talk and do our introduction. But then the very next thing is perform by yourself. So whatever that performance is, it can be a monologue, it can be a song, it can be a dance, it can be
molten.
it can be molten lava cake.
Yeah, you know, the guy who acted in that scene was Jon Favreau,
Who is the director of?
who's the creator of Mandalorian
Okay.
and Iron Man. He directed Chef, which is where that scene's from, and Chef's my favorite movie. And he made The Chef Show on Netflix, and then he also made Elf, and he made lots of stuff. He's the greatest thing ever. I love Jon Favreau. And I just wanted to take a second.
So
Any
good.
excuse to talk about Jon Favreau, I'll
Yes,
take.
he's amazing.
Please continue, though.
I don't even know what I was saying now, but
I'm sorry.
we
We were talking about the skits.
Oh, I
and
was
getting to
saying
know
that at
each
the
other.
beginning of the year, people have to
You could
showcase
do whatever
some
you-
sort of
yeah.
talent.
It's
And
a lot
so
of fun doing that.
I've because of last year, I really kind of paid attention to what the kids did this year. And a girl got in front of the class with a piece of paper and started reading the story of Rendersella. And so
What's
it's
that?
just really hilarious. It's this girl who has two, I forgot what they're called. Well, she has a, I can't say it. It's hard because all the words are mixed up, but she's going to the ball for the Pransome Hints. And she has a Gary Fodmother. And it's all just backwards. So the whole thing is just taking two letters and switching them through the entire thing, telling the story of Cinderella but Rendersella. And just hilarious. And she knew it very well, never cracked a smile, read it without messing up one word.
That's
And
funny.
so when I asked her to do it again this year, I thought, well, instead of just reading it, let's kind of act it out while you're reading it. And then since we have all these boys already dressing up as girls, then they can be Rendersella and I forgot what they call the stepsisters. They were mean or something big. I don't know. Something word about the stepsisters. They switched two things and made them sound really hilarious. But then there's going to be the Gary Fodmother, and the only girl that's going to be acting is the Pransome Hints.
Mm-hmm.
So all the other all the girl parts will be played by boys and boys by girls, and so it'll just be a completely mixed up version. And I think
like
it's
it.
going to be really, really cute.
I like it because especially it's all reversed. Everything's reversed.
Everything's reversed.
That's really funny. It's gonna be like Shakespeare when the guys have the dress as girls.
There
and
we
do all
go.
that stuff.
There
Do you
we go.
remember a couple years ago? It was during my year. Whenever it was the prom fashion show, or something, and there was like there was the something show where like a bunch of popular dudes dressed as girls, and it was like a fashion show, like a model
They
model
did the
competition.
Boys Beauty Pageant.
Boys Beauty Pageant. That's what I'm
They
thinking
call
of.
it. They don't call it Boys Beauty Pageant. They call it Womanless.
Womanless
They call it
Beauty
Womanless
Pageant,
Beauty
yeah.
Pageant.
And then and a lot of dudes dressed up as chicks, and then the guy who actually won prom king that year dressed up as a chick and did a whole thing in a dress and makeup and everything. But then actually at prom, a guy who is gay wore a dress and he wasn't allowed in. And then that guy went on Twitter, and the guy who dresses as a dress, and he was the prom king, and he was like, "That's an embarrassment to our school." And then Matthew Wallace, a good friend of ours, posted all over Twitter the picture of him in the dress and said he's an embarrassment to our school. That's hilarious to me, because screw that guy.
I'm saying.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, you can throw it out there, but what's interesting about that guy is that he was in one of my speech classes,
Really?
and it was a class that we were really close in. And at the end of the year, I don't know why, I really don't, but I knew his name was an unusual name for a student. I mean, just an older sounding name. And it just clicked in my head, and I went and sat with him, and I said, "What is your dad's name?" And he told me. I said, "What is your grandfather's name?" And so we started talking about relatives, and he just kept looking at me, and I said, "Your great-grandfather is my grandmother's brother. And so he's my relative, just the same as Cupid is."
Oh, I thought for a second I was like, no, that's Cupid.
No, on the other
Oh,
side.
no. So that guy too?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I didn't even know it until the last day of
Wow.
class. I went and sat next to him, and I asked him, and we had gotten really close. Like the day after he won the Womanless Beauty Pageant, he came in, and I'm like, "My queen," and we laughed, and I gave him a big hug and whatever. And
Wait, he won it?
He did.
Wasn't his name Alexis Texas in it? Do you remember?
I know he won because I called him my queen, and so then when he came in after he won prom king, I'm like, hey, he's the queen and the king, and it was a joke I made and whatever. I remember that.
Okay, that's funny.
But
That's
yeah,
funny.
he did take a lot of flack for saying what he did. I don't know why he did. I really don't. But a lot of people who don't even know him at all can't stand him because of what he said, and it was not a wise decision.
No, just this is something that came to mind
Yes.
that I wanted to talk about
Right.
because I love tea. I love drama, and also I think it's funny that Matthew did that thing.
Well, I never heard about Matthew doing that.
Oh well, he made a skit video where it was like a Sunny in Philadelphia parody skit, and it was a lot of fun. It was very funny. I love doing memes like that. I love a good meme. You want to know what the current big meme is?
Please do tell.
Well, one is, of course, Keanu Reeves and how amazing he is. The other is Baby Yoda, of course. And there's this meme of Baby Yoda. There's this shot of him like holding tea, and like he's holding bone broth is what it's called in the show, and he's like sipping it. So now the joke is like me watching all this drama happen while I just sit and like sipping tea and stuff like that. So that is a meme. I thought it was funny because you could totally get that. It's not that weird. It's just like, that's funny because imagine you sipping tea watching a bunch of drama go down, but it's Baby Yoda sipping it and being like, blah. Or it's like watching my older brother kill all the bad guys on the video game. It's like, haha, die. And he's like, yeah, Baby Yoda. Or it's him looking up. Everything's Baby Yoda.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is Baby Yoda.
Except for the Keanu Reeves. So what do you mean about how amazing he is? What kind of things are people doing with that?
Just like pictures of like his face all the time, and it's like about how he's like a god and how he's the most amazing person, and we love Keanu Reeves. And
You know, I have always loved him. I saw him in Bill and Ted, and then everything he ever acted in since then, people said he couldn't act. But I loved it. And he has a movie called The Lake House with Sandra Bullock, and it is just one of the best movies I've ever seen. I love it because it's one of those kind of fantasy mixed into reality stories, because these two people meet each other across the span. They are in two different time. They're 2 years apart in time. That's what I'm trying to say. And they both lived in the lake house, and that's how their connection gets started, and just the way the story develops and then the way it ends. Oh, if you've never seen it, have you ever seen it?
No.
The Lake House. You need to watch that movie. But anyway, so now he was in The Matrix, and then he's been all this. What is the action?
John Wick.
John Wick. And people are just praising him to high heaven and giving him the praise, in my opinion, he's always deserved. But what's so amazing about him is just as a human being, he's just the most amazing.
Most humble person.
Yes, rides the subway. I mean, he has not let fame go to his head. And I've just always loved him. I've always thought he was so talented.
I think so. And you know what happened is, after the Matrix, the last two Matrix movies were like bad, he became a joke, and it's like the joke of Neo. Oh my, I know kung fu. But you're right. In reality, it actually was really great. And now, John Wick 4. They're making another Matrix movie. Did you know?
I did hear that.
The Matrix 4 and John Wick 4 are coming out on the same day.
That's crazy.
So it's going to be a double dose of Keanu.
That's crazy.
I'm so excited. I'm going to see both opening day. I love the John Wick movies. What?
Do you know anything about what they're doing with Matrix 4? Because I really wanted, really badly, to enjoy the Matrix movies. Like, I watched the first one, and I thought it was amazing. The idea of the Matrix in the movie is something that I talk about with friends, that we really get into the existential aspects of life. So I'm all about that.
Right.
That way of viewing reality. But when I saw the second one, I was like, and then when I saw the third one, I was like, I don't know what I just saw. I was so confused.
That's how most people feel.
I really wanted to I wanted to like it. I wanted to get it. I wanted to understand it. And I just,
you know what I think what happened with the Matrix is they had a really great idea, and then it became really popular, and they're like, oh, we got to make another one. Oh crap, you know what I mean? Like, they had an idea for one good movie. Yeah. And then it just all went downhill. I have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, so we need to read up on that and try to figure that out.
I cannot find anything. Like, I have no idea what they're doing with it. All I know is that it's happening. I think 2022 or 2021, probably 2022.
Totally off topic. ish, but I was
What up,
watching the thank you, David.
Sorry, I call people pimps.
Yes, you do. I didn't get to see Saturday Night Live Saturday when Eddie Murphy hosted, which I knew was happening. I just didn't watch it. I just totally forgot. I don't even remember what I was doing. But anyway, so I watched his monologue today, and when I was just had some time, and he just finished filming the sequel to Coming to America, which I had heard was happening, but I didn't know it actually was. So have you seen that movie?
I have no idea what that is.
Oh my God.
Never heard of that.
See, this is an age gap here. But Coming to America is a film where Eddie Murphy plays this prince from Africa who comes to America and just lives like a pauper because he wants to find his true love. James Earl Jones plays his father, and I don't remember who plays his mother, but those are the two the actors who did the voicing of the king and queen in Lion King. I mean, they used that same idea because it was just such a popular movie, and you've got to go see that movie, or maybe we can find it and watch it together, because there are just so many references to it. You will probably recognize so many things that you've already seen or heard of before, because it was it was funny. It was fairy tale, great, just fun. I loved it. I've always loved it. And I've always loved Eddie Murphy as well. He's had his ups and downs as well. But he looks really good, and it was just so nice to see him and just acting again, doing all the old skits he used to do on SNL. It was just great. I enjoyed it. I saw Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood and just a few other things he did on the show today. Just loved it. So a lot of good stuff coming out soon. Oh, and another one I'll have to talk
prime
about.
Prime for
good movies.
Pop culture people, yeah.
So we have to talk about Cats. Are you planning to see that?
I kind of want to see it, but just because morbid curiosity.
I'm saying. Well, for me, it's morbid curiosity, but it's also professional curiosity, because I've seen Cats on Broadway. Yeah. Have we talked about this, I think, on the podcast?
I think we did, last week. Yeah,
because we talked about how many times I've seen it.
Yeah.
And people continue to ask me what I think about it, and I'm like, I don't know what I think about it, except I know that it's going to be so different.
Right.
So strange.
It's bizarre to see. I would go see it. If I had the extra money to spend on a movie ticket, I would go. But it was between Star Wars and Cats.
Well, no, if I had to make a choice, it just depends on the other choice. But
right.
I do plan to see it, because I want to see, if nothing else, the new interpretation of the songs.
I don't know if I want to go see it in theater, though.
I kind of do, but I don't know if I will. I'm not sure.
That's funny, and we talked a bit about that last week. You're right, I think, and I want to see it because it's like, what the frick is this? Okay, let's do it. Let's see what's going on with Cats.
No, I heard it didn't do well in the box office.
Probably not, because it doesn't look good at all.
It just looks so bizarre.
Bizarre, yeah. Yeah, exactly, but it is a prime time for movies and being a nerd. I was thinking about it the other day because, Rise of Skywalker just came out, and there's The Mandalorian, which is great, and also a new show dropped on Netflix that I'm a big fan of. Have you ever heard of The Witcher?
Oh, somebody on my Facebook feed has just been raving about it. Now, has it even started yet?
Yes, the show is on Netflix. They dropped, how Netflix, they drop all the episodes. I'm on episode 5 of 8. I'm a big fan, but I've always been a fan of The Witcher. So,
tell me what
The Witcher is actually a Polish folk tale about this guy who's a monster hunter. So there are all these monsters, and then there are the Witchers, which are monster hunters who they take mutations. So they undergo mutations that make themselves stronger, faster, better, but they lose all of their emotions whenever they take the mutation, and they're just trained for hunting monsters. And what happened is, and this is one of the story actually, so that's the folktale, and then there's the story of The Witcher, which is in books. It's told through books. I forget the author's name, but he's Polish, and a couple novels and some short stories about this guy Geralt of Rivia, who is a Witcher, and what happened is the world was full of monsters, so they create the Witchers, and they needed the Witchers to get rid of the monsters. But now that most of the monsters are gone, the Witchers are kind of like, get out of here, mutie. You're not human, discrimination. And there's a lot of that in this world. It tackles that heavily because there are elves and other dwarves that are and humans are just screw you, and elves invented magic, and then they showed the humans how to use the magic, but then the humans slaughtered all the original elves so that way they could pretend that they had the magic themselves. Lots of interesting stuff going on in this very interesting world. And so they write these short stories and these books about Geralt of Rivia, a Witcher, and he's supposed to lose all of his emotions, right? But it's pretty obvious that Geralt that not really, that they do have emotions. They're just really deep in there because Geralt, he has lovers, and but like actual like. Yes, he loves hookers, but he has actual lovers and like love interests that he gets and friends, and he grows attachment. He's a great character because he's really interesting in that way. And then, but how I know about The Witcher originally is it's actually a video game series. So this Polish company took the books and they adapted it into a video game. And the video game is actually a sequel to the books, so it follows the books. It's just like a continuation, and it's some very successful games. There are 3 Witcher games. The third one is the most recent, obviously, because it's the third one, and that's the one I've played a lot of. I played the other 2, but this is like I was playing it today before I came over because I'm loving the show, and it's a great game series. It's an RPG, open world. You just get to explore this world as Geralt of Rivia, and fight monsters and really do these really interesting quests for people and all that fun stuff. It's a great game series, great character, and they made a Netflix TV show starring Henry Cavill, who played Superman. That's why it's interesting, right? Because
what series or what movie or whatever? When did he play?
The most recent Superman, like Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Justice League.
Okay. This
was Henry Cavill was that Superman. So it's really interesting because they announced that, and it's like, what? I don't know, because Geralt's all dark and brooding and like, but let me tell you, he is pitch perfect. Because of this show, he's become one of my favorite actors. And I started reading about him and watching many interviews, and it's sort of like Keanu, where he's like the most humble guy that I've ever seen. He played Superman, but he's just super chill, which is like, that's perfect. That's what Superman is. So now I'm like, man, I really hope I don't like any of the movies he's been Superman in, but I really hope he gets another shot to play Superman because I think he's a great guy and I think he's a great Superman. And just the most humble, charming guy. He said he read all the books and played all the games to become ready for this character, and he is pitch perfect as Geralt of Rivia. He's a better Geralt of Rivia than the Geralt of Rivia in Witcher 3 is. So when I'm playing Witcher 3, I'm kind of frustrated that I'm not Henry Cavill's Geralt of Rivia.
So the character in the games, does he have emotion? How does that work?
Yeah, it's the same thing where it's like he has emotion where story comes up and it just becomes obvious that, and people comment on it, it's like, I thought you're not supposed to have emotions, but in reality what it is that the mutation it affects people differently, and I think it's implied that people said they didn't have emotions almost as a like justification for hating them, and it's like, oh, you're monsters, you don't have emotions. Well, what happened is they got the mutations, and it did make them a bit dulled in the emotions, but they still had them. They didn't go away fully. But now there's this
Vulcans who turn their backs on them to live that,
right, exactly.
World.
But Spock can still be a good guy. They're still in there, exactly. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of like this tall tale told that about the Witchers, but it does affect them. But they do have emotions, and then become, and Geralt's like really actually a good guy. And he's dark and brooding and everything, but he doesn't kill innocent people, and he gets paid to kill monsters, and a lot of times what happens is they like kill this monster, and he goes and hunts down the monster, but then the monster starts talking to him, and it's just a guy who looks different, and Geralt's like, I'm not going to kill you, but you need to stop stealing their crops, stuff like that. And then he actually does meet people, like women that he falls in love with. One of them, who has done amazing in the show, Yennefer is her name, and she is a sorceress, and she's done great in the show. She has another love interest named Trish Marigold, who is god-awful in the show and is nothing like the character from the books or the games, and it's really frustrating because I really like Trish a lot. That's the only part of the show I don't like. But Geralt is and the Witchers, they're like their master at sword. They're master swordsmen. They have faint magic abilities they can use, and they're just the best swordsmen in the world, and that's their skills. And the action in the show is amazing. The sword play is great. Henry Cavill's amazing. The costumes in the world, it's great fantasy and very dark. When he fights the monsters, it's very scary. Some of the monsters.
So there actually are monsters.
There are monsters that he fights, like
people that they're saying are monsters.
There are actual monsters. Like, but for example, there's this one monster. And it's a very interesting world where they draw on a lot of classic fairy tales. Like there are genies for example, but they're called jinns, and they draw on a lot of classic stuff and like curses. And there's this one creature that he fights in the show that was a woman who was pregnant got cursed and then died, but the baby kept growing, and so the baby just like sprouted out of the dead mother's body and then kept growing and became this like monstrous beast that was just like killing and eating people. And you keep like hearing about it, but then you finally see her in the show, and it is absolutely disgusting. Has the umbilical cord hanging, like just the grossest thing, right? They don't shy away from any of that crap. And then Geralt's like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, okay, here we go. And has to fight it, but he doesn't kill it. Instead, he just, like, weakens it down and then breaks the curse. Because he doesn't want... And everyone keeps saying, like, why don't you just kill it? And he's like, because there's a girl in there. Like, I can break the curse, and actually a person will come out of this, and we can try to help her.
So all monsters are cursed people?
Not all of them.
Okay.
That's just there are trolls, and then there are witches and where we at? One. Okay, there are witches and wraiths, and most of the monsters are undead who were like they die like wraiths, and they just sort of had by killing them they kind of just move on. There are werewolves who are cursed people, and he tries to help them. But then there are actual like beasts and monsters like griffins and and things like that aren't misunderstood. They're just beasts.
Right.
It's like it's almost the same thing as if a bear was attacking a town. You have to kill the bear.
Yeah.
It's killing people. Yeah. But a lot of them, if he can help them, he tries, and that's what a witcher's great because the idea is that they spent their life studying these monsters, so that they just know the best way to kill the monsters, and they've gotten good at it. And in D&D, my character is basically a witcher because I think they're so cool. I play a ranger, which is just a witcher. A witcher is just a ranger, and I'm just trying to play this character like that because I just think they're so cool.
That sounds very cool.
Yeah, it's very. So anyway, watch that show.
Yes, and
it's a great
let's
show.
See, where did we start? We started with Popping Knuckles, which led to Hugs. Then we switched to Star Wars, and then we talked about different movies that were coming out. So we have
random stuff in there too, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely, some random stuff. Always some random stuff. But David and I, David read my mind at least 3 times.
Oh, you talked about the play.
So, we talked about writing the play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So been quite the interesting episode.
Yeah.
So
it has indeed.
I hope you have enjoyed it.
It's
time to wrap up.
I think so because I could keep going.
And we will just save it for next time.
I think so because by the next time I would have finished the show. So I can give a little review on why you should watch The Witcher. If you love fantasy, watch The Witcher. It's on Netflix. Off it's out now. It's great.
Cool. So I guess I can say this has been Creative Conversations with David and Donna. I'm Donna.
I'm David.
Stay creative.